Warning: this episode contains graphic mentions of transphobic and homophobic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Women in Work Why It Matters, brought to you by the International Center for Research on Women and Feminism in India. I'm Purnima.
I'm Nilanjana.
We're your hosts, and for today's episode, we're going to be talking about something very interesting. We're going to be talking about how gender and caste impact work. Now, it's no secret that women and people of different genders and sexualities are often disenfranchised due to their gender, caste, class, and migrant identity. Barriers to access to decent and paid work are often compounded by intersectional identities. Discrimination, harassment, and biases are the usual roadblocks faced by people, especially those from vulnerable and marginalized communities, while pursuing meaningful employment.
You're absolutely right, Purnima. And this discrimination starts from childhood itself. The absence of a safe space at home or outside, the lack of a healthy childhood to adulthood transition, the absence of equal opportunities in education and skills create debilitating conditions for the person with intersecting marginal identities in terms of both life and livelihood. At present, even with new laws such as the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 and the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Rules 2020, the partial reading down of Section 377 of the IPC, there are still no safeguards and security measures for the Indian LGBTQIA+ community with respect to protection of employment, income, security against discrimination, and provision of equal pay.
Exactly, Nilanjana. And there are many roadblocks and systemic biases against women and persons of diverse gender and sexual identities. The current pandemic and economic turmoil have only made it worse for the community with respect to access to earning opportunities and livelihoods, plunging them into a more severe survival crisis.
And besides the social stigma persons of diverse gender and sexual identities already face, during COVID-19, that means these last 2 years, they've also faced multiple instances of violence and abuse, like bullying, harassment, threats at their workplace, domestic violence in their households, interruptions in hormonal therapy, gender discrimination and violence at testing centers, and so on and so forth. Caste, class, and other intersectional identities have only worked to compound the marginalization of these communities even further, doubling the impact of the barriers to access to service provision.
In today's episode, to discuss in depth the link between gender, caste, and work, we have with us a very special guest, Grace Banu. Grace is a transgender activist and a leading voice in the anti-caste movement. As the first registered transgender woman to enroll in an engineering college, Grace rewrote history. She has been advocating for Dalit and transgender rights, demanding, along with other transgender people, for reservation based on gender identity as well as caste. Welcome to the podcast, Grace. We're so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to talk with you.
So excited to have this conversation with you today. So without any further delay, Grace, I think we should start right away. And I know this is a little bit of a broad question, but how do you think gender, caste, and work are linked with each other?
So gender, caste, and work. These three of them, yes, obviously it's completely linked with each other. Because when we say the caste, when we give the job opportunity for a person, it's based on, automatically caste is everywhere. So it will give a caste-based job also there, so many years, so many persons, the generations, so many generations are so doing the same work. So because of their caste, yeah. And when we talk about the gender, so when a job, particularly, it's mark for a particular gender, like a male. This job opportunity it should be male. This job opportunity it should be a female. When we talk about the work, so when we talk about the workspace also have a gender. So workplace have work and gender and caste. These three of them have a transphobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, all the things. But all the things, it's linked with each other. So I want to share one example. When a trans woman who gave the interview in the media, So all the TV, the print media and the social media, celebrated that work. That is, a trans woman who was who is doing buried work, so in the burial ground. So all the people are, celebrating. Wow, this is amazing. This, the trans woman wants to live with a dignified life, and this trans woman doing this, and all the print media and the social media, they are all celebrating. Yes, when we see, when we look at the generally, we are all celebrating this. But when we look now, when we see the when we change our vision in the name of caste, so that trans woman doing the buried work, and before her father doing that, and before her grandfather also doing that, and how it's going to be dignified work.
You're absolutely right.
This is going to, generationally they impose that work to the trans person. So when we do when the trans person doing that, it's not a dignified work. The trans person can finish 8th standard. So government should give the job opportunity for them. So many clerical posts are there, official, the office assistant post is there. Why they don't, they don't want to give that kind of job. So here we see gender and caste. Both are having super kind of role, and both are having super kind of oppression for the trans community. So when we go to access the work, so many job opportunities are denied because of my gender identity. And interiorly, when a few person got job opportunities, I mean, the people who are having privilege, those people getting job opportunity, they are all Savarna community, trans, and DBA community, trans, doesn't have any kind of privileges, doesn't have any kind of access to education, access to the public space. Underprivileged people, it's super hard to access this kind of space.
I hear you, Grace, and it's reminding me of a lot of things. So often a lot of the mainstream, mainstream people would say that a lot of transgender people are just begging on the streets, or they are involved in sex work. My first question is, first of all, I mean, of course, there's this whole question of what is wrong with sex work. That could be a question that can be asked. But beyond that, the other question is that, what other opportunities are there for these people? Yes. In fact, exactly. So I've seen a lot of Koti people in Bengal, we call them Koti.
I know.
So some of them, they try to open tea stalls, etc. But they face so much of harassment by the police, by the state, by general public. So it's so difficult. And not only transgender people, look at the binary of male and female, as you said. For women, we've struggled for 100 years. 100 years to get access to education, to get access to certain kinds of jobs. Otherwise, even women were always told that, you have to be at home and cook and care for the child. So all of this, and then once you bring in caste, then that becomes even more complicated. But coming to the next issue, which you also mentioned, that, the discrimination doesn't begin at the work site only. The discrimination begins in your access to education, in your access to skills, in your access to learning. And that is also determined by caste and by gender location. So can you reflect a little bit on that?
So access the education. So here, when we talk about the education, it's a larger space. So that larger space also we need to access, and we don't have a privilege to access those kind of spaces, because, for example, when we talk about the DBA community trans, so DBA, do you think all the DBA community trans getting all kind of education qualification? No, not at all. So the DBA, when we talk about the Dalit, Bagujan, Adivasi community trans people, they are having, compared with the Savarna people, compared with the Savarna trans people, they don't have privilege to enter into the classroom. In the classroom, in the school, they are facing so much of discrimination in the name of caste and gender. So here, I want to talk about, when we talk about the education, the Savarna trans and the DBA community trans, both are facing, gender oppression, but particularly DBA community trans, they are facing double amount of oppression in the name of caste and gender, because their family circle doesn't have an education opportunity. The generationally, so many trans people generationally doesn't have an opportunity to access the education, to enter into the classroom. And when we fight with to get the education, when we enter into the classroom, in that classroom also have a transphobia and the casteism.
Correct.
And the casteist people and the transphobic people are surrounding with us. If you're human, a good person, good human, have a peaceful circumstance, peaceful, surrounding, and that student have clear thoughts and all the space, like safe space. So when we created a safe space for the student, and that students studying well, and they are focusing on the studies, and they don't want to they don't concentrate with the others thing. But here, when we talk about the DBA community, already we are facing caste discrimination. But when the changes shows my gender identities, when my body shows my gender identities, and they are we are facing verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. So here, when we talk about the education, or the education have the protection from this four kind of abuses? No, not at all. You close all the doors, but you are saying, you should go outside. How do we go? You close all the doors, like education, employment, and protection. Every doors are closed. That's why we are doing begging and sex work.
Absolutely. And why only classroom? I'm just thinking that sometimes, that lack of safe space is at home itself. So,
Yes.
So many transgender children are forced to run away because of abuse at home. And then forget education. It's a question of survival. Basic survival is not ensured for them.
So when we talk about the family, when we talk about the education, here, one is school, and another one is, school, colleges, and another one is family. When we go to the, when we left from the home, we are going to meet the school and colleges and the civil society, and through that, from when I left from within the family cycle, I'm facing so much of discrimination. That is mental abuse. They are torturing us. They are, they want to convert. They put me into conversion therapy. But our community, our DBA community trans people, who doesn't know about what is conversion therapy, but the people, the family people, they are doing. They put me in the, for example, my life, when I told to my parents about my gender identity, immediately they put me in the mental asylum. My parents doesn't know about anything. They don't know. But the society thought, teach them. If your children having this kind of issues, you should go to the psychiatrist. And immediately, whatever the family sentiment and all the things they put me in. They put us in the conversion therapy. And the conversion, through that, the conversion therapy, as 2019 lockdown, during the lockdown, a person who committed suicide because of the conversion therapy. And the various states are, now banning ban the conversion therapy. But it's not fully. Again, when we say the ban conversion therapy, okay, the people who are having privilege, the people who are, speaking in the well-known English, the people who are having the caste privilege, class privilege, all the kind of privilege, those people obey that, and those people knew about what is the, the ban conversion therapy. The people who doesn't have any kind of privileges, the people who are living in the interior rural areas, the rural areas parents, do you think those parents know about the conversion therapy? They don't know what is, what changes my children having in the, in their bodies. And here, the lack of educating those kind of people, it's super kind of oppression. Each and every trans person who are in the field, they should fight. They should fight with the parents. They should fight with the the students who are having transphobic thoughts. They should fight with the teachers. So first, when we talk about the public space, accessing the public space like education and employment, first you should create a safe space for the trans people. When we talk about the safe space, it's not only Savarna trans people safe space, it should be in the DBA, all community trans people.
You're absolutely right. I think, Grace, you like very rightly mentioned that not just gender, but like caste is so insidious that even if we have created safe spaces, these safe spaces are very limited. Like these safe spaces are only available to, you know, Savarna trans people or people LGBTQI people largely from Savarna communities. Which is why I think I want to know from you, Grace, you know, how do you think the transgender women community, especially those located at the intersections of, you know, caste and class deprivations, like you've mentioned, from the Dalit, Bahujan and Adivasi communities, how have they navigated the realm of work and labor? Because caste is, you know, so insidious. It's passed down from generation to generation. So even if we're celebrating a lot of like trans success stories, we have to realize that caste also plays a role. So for example, if we're trying to keep, you know, even trans women in the same line of work as their forefathers because of casteism, that's again like that's not a cause of celebration exactly. So how do you think, Grace, trans women, especially from Dalit, Bahujan and Adivasi background, have, you know, sort of navigated the world of work and labor and caste, and what have been their experiences and strategies of survival?
So when we talk about the workspace, the workplace also, as I said, transphobia. It has transphobia and the casteist people. So here, when we talk about the safe space for the DBA, you know, all community, you know, when we talk about the equality, it should be all the people should participate in the mainstream space. So workspace is a mainstream space. So here, where we don't have a strong protection act. When we talk about the labor act, are the labor act include the trans people, trans laborers? No, it's not at all. And we need to include the labor law, and we need a special act for the trans people. When we talk about the special act, so that special act means, you know, when we go to the workspace, the 100 years before, so many women face, you know, in the workspace face the discrimination, you know, in the name of the 12 hours working hour, and they don't give a leave, and they don't give a permission, anything. So like that, same kind of oppression trans people, and specifically trans women, also facing, you know, with a low salary, but the, you know, a long period, long hours, we need to work. When we raise the question, why I'm, you know, my colleague and me, we both are working same hour and same place, but they got high salary, but I'm getting very low salary. When I raise this issue, immediately the people who are having the power, superior power, they are casteist and transphobic people, and they will say, oh no, you know, you should do this is this much amount your salary, that's it, and you need to work. And when we raise these issues, immediately they will say, oh no, you people doesn't have any kind of opportunity, at least I should give this kind of opportunity. So this is patriarchy thoughts, patriarchy and casteist and class thought. So this kind of situation it's having super kind of role. And when we go to the DBA community trans, so DBA community trans doesn't have any kind of privilege to access the workspace. If we go to the, you know, to approach a company, and all the companies are in the urban areas, but the rural areas doesn't have any kind of companies, and it's like a very, very small scale business they are doing. And if also if if we approach that small scale business owners, and they are completely patriarchy and casteist people, and we need to educate them. When I enter and they will they don't have a protection from when I face mental abuse, physical abuse and sexual abuse in the workspace, and how do we protect those kind of situations? And it's super hard. And trans women, particularly DBA community trans women, what are they doing? So most of the rural area trans persons are doing begging, and the urban areas doing begging and sex work. And rural area trans people who are living in the rural area, they are folk performers in the cultural level, and the religious level performers, and they are all the people are celebrating like a god, so they will use that platform, and they believe they're religious and they believe their rituals, and they are doing. And other people who are dancing in the funeral function, and in that also they are facing so much of oppression, the sexual abuse, sexual assault, and somebody we don't know who can come and beat me, and when I shout, immediately they will go, they will, surrounding us, and they will physically they will attack us, and we don't have those kind of safe spaces, and we are doing this kind of works that are small scale work. And when we approach to the government, when we set up a small scale business and small scale whatever the work is there, and they will give okay, we will give vessels to start a defense shop, different thing. That's it. Beyond that, they don't think anything. We need to, why this trans person stop their education? We are not ready to give the education for them, because most of the trans people, and specifically DBA community trans people, are dropout students, and here we don't have a space to continue their education. So we need to protect from the beginning. And when we talk about the workspace is when we go to the begging is the workspace for us. So when we go to the begging, cis people, every day we are meeting different kind of cis people, both male and female, the dominant gender, both are having, both are doing oppression, both are throwing oppression for us. Every day when we go to the begging, when we meet cis women or cis male, and they will attack us, and nobody come forward to rescue us, because we need to sustain our livelihood. That's why we are doing begging. But in the begging place also having casteism and transphobic, and particularly rural area, it's super kind of transphobic, super kind of caste issues we are facing. So okay, how they identify our caste? Yes, here so many opportunities there to identify our caste. They will ask our name, and they will ask our which background we are coming from, which what is our native place. They will easily identify us, and they are not ready to give a single paisa to us, but they need our blessing. They're not ready to raise our voice. They're not ready to support our rights. Whatever, you people are beating us, you people are murdering us, you people are giving so much of torturing us. You are asking blessing from our hands, but in your hands so many bloods are there. Like my sisters and brothers, we are losing every day. We are losing our brothers and sisters. How do you ask the blessing from us? So particularly the trans women workspace, it's super hard. And the intersectionality, DBA community workspace, when we go to the sex work, every day the sexually, so many torture, sexually torture we face. And the patriarchy, casteist, the arrogant people, the male, we meet. Every day we are meeting with them, and they will torturing us. here we don't have a protection from those kind of people. So sex work, begging, all the workspace, when we go to the public workspace also, doesn't have a safe space for us. So everywhere we are going through oppression, fight, we are facing fight, oppression, so many hierarchy of oppression. Where are we our life? We are also want to live with a peaceful life, right?
Grace, I mean, I think some of the questions that you've raised are so hard hitting and so true. I really am at loss of words to even move to the next question. But I do want to bring this up that these last 2 years have really been very, very difficult for everybody, especially people from the working class, people from DBA community, and therefore especially for transgender people from the DBA community. Just wanted to hear some of your experience of how during COVID-19, when so many of us have lost jobs, have lost means of survival, have lost homes, how has the transgender community, managed this time, and what has been the impact of this COVID-19 period in terms of health, in terms of livelihoods? And because there was a lockdown and because there's so much of social stigma around, people, and often people from these communities were seen as carriers of virus also. Not just transgender people, but people, say domestic workers, people from the working class communities, people living in slums, who were actually not the carriers, who were actually the people who got impacted because of, dominant caste and, well-off people bringing the virus from all around. But somewhere the stigma was often with the DBA community, and especially also with the transgender community. How have people negotiated this loss of livelihoods, loss of homes, and the stigma that they have faced during these last 2 years?
So the pandemic, when we say yes, pandemic is affected all over the world, so many people, but particularly it's affected trans community a lot, because within the trans community, the people who are having diabetes, we have above 40 years old trans people livelihood, we don't have anything. And the people who are affected by the HIV, and the people who are, as I said, the folk artists, the beggars, and the sex workers, we are all part of with this. So when you close all the doors, we completely lost our livelihood. Nothing is there. When compared with the cis people, at least they are having some savings money, they will manage everything. But here we don't have. Every day we are doing begging, and that begging money, it's going to everyday our livelihood, to wear our cloth, to pay our rent, and to take a healthcare, access the healthcare, access in the private, everything. So pandemic super affected the trans community, and government also doesn't focus on that community, because when we talk about the central government, they gave at least 2 times 1,500 rupees, but first 1,500 rupees for the 7,000 people. As per the population in the parliamentarian, 5 lakh trans people are there in the country, but they focus only 7,000 people. Where are others? And they calculated the people who are having Aadhaar card and who are having the basic documents. But where are the people who doesn't have any kind of documents? Did you focus on those kind of people? No, not at all. And the various states are, gave a relief fund and relief support. No, not at all. The organization people, the various CBO people, they protected us. They raise individual, crowdsource, and they will, support each other. They, if they need any kind of medical support, health support, anything. But during the pandemic, we are facing super kind of transphobia, super kind of casteism. Because accessing the healthcare, accessing the, to know about the COVID situation, we don't know. So here in Tamil Nadu, we don't have a separate drive for the trans people. I filed the PIL in the Madras High Court, and after that we got the judgment, and after that only they will create a separate drive and the priority for the trans people. And now most of the trans people took the vaccination, and they don't give any awareness about how the vaccination react our bodies, trans bodies. So but during the pandemic, financially, economically, socially, we oppressed a lot. We face so many discrimination. For example, in Mumbai, a trans woman who commits suicide because who she doesn't have a nutrition food. She is a HIV infected trans woman who she doesn't have a proper food. So that's why she committed suicide. And during the pandemic, the Transgender Protection Act was passed and the rules was passed. They are saying you should, getting the national identity card in the online. Here people are dying, but you are saying online using use online platform to apply the thing to getting my basic document. And so many things happen in the pandemic time. And other side, the murders also happen. A trans woman who was an entrepreneur, her name is Sangeeta, and she's a 60-year-old trans woman who started a trans kitchen, and she gave a job opportunity for the cis male, and the cis male sexually abused her, and she denied that, and he cut her head. He put her body into the drum, and he put all the salt inside the drum, and he closed. After 3 days, when her body, demolished, that smell happened. After 3 days only, they found her body. And still now she didn't get a justice, and they arrested that guy. And after 15 days, he got bail. And now he is freely roaming around everywhere. And recently, last month, January month, a trans woman who brutally murdered, some gundas raped, tortured her, and we found her body. And before she died, she called to another trans woman, and she said, "Mom, you should come as soon as possible. I am dying." That voice, it's hearing in every day in our ears. So during, it's happening in the normal time, and during the pandemic time, it's super kind of oppression, and brutality, murders are happening because of we don't have a strong protection act, and the people who are oppressing us, they are thinking, who is there for these people? You people always listening. It's like when we say it's like a TV show. You are not ready to coming forward to support us, to coming forward to to give the solidarity for us. Now it's the pandemic. It's put so many steps down back for the trans community, and specifically GBA community, livelihood, and here the major problem: paying the rental house. Already the landlords who are in the caste privilege, class privilege, the land rights, already they have, and they are saying we don't have any financial support to pay our rent, and the landlords are showing the patriarchy thoughts, the casteist thoughts. Normally they will put so many conditions. They are putting so many conditions, and the emergency situation, they said, if you doesn't have money, you should vacate immediately. Where are we go? And the government, as per the Transgender Protection Act, we created a 12 shelter home, and that's 12 shelter home in the urban areas and the metropolitan areas. Where are we go? So the paying the rent, still now it's super hard. So many trans person ready to die because of they don't have any money to pay the rent. So that's why still when you see my Instagram page, or we started a campaign, fundraising campaign. So this kind of situations, this kind of when accessing the healthcare also, it's super difficult, super hard, because they are transphobic. So they immediately come, not ready to give a treatment for us. So this is the situation.
I think Purnima and I are both completely, we are absolutely silent because we are shocked to the core, and somewhere we are ashamed to the core, because we also are part of this society, which, as you said, has closed all doors, and not just closed all doors, is continuously inflicting so much of oppression, so much of torture, mental, physical, sexual, that the whole question of livelihoods is not just of well-being, but of basic survival. And from what you said, trans people, especially from the Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi communities, they are always living on the edge, be it economically or socially. And I think it's a time for all of us in society to together reflect on our humanity and on the right of every human being to lead a dignified and decent life. And as you said, everybody wants peace and dignity. Do we create an enabling and safe space for every human being to live with peace, dignity, and basic well-being? I think I will end with this question, because there's nothing else I can summarize. I can only feel ashamed. I can only feel that it's important for all of us to make that commitment, to stand in solidarity, to raise our voice with all of you and say that it's important to recognize the rights of all trans people and to ensure that they survive with dignity and survive with equality with all of us. So on that note, over to you, Purnima.
Exactly, Nilanjana. I think today's discussion with Grace has been so insightful. But before we end today's episode, I would just like to take a moment again to thank you, Grace, for joining us today and giving us a chance to talk to you. Thank you for your time. This has been such a great and insightful episode. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Purnima and Nilanjana, and thank you so much to your entire team for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts. And thanks a lot. Jai Bhim, Jai Savitri, Jai Fatima.
Grace, you've also been doing a lot of groundwork, and as an activist, I know like you are, constantly on the ground. You're doing a lot of work, and I want to know, could you please share, where our listeners could follow you online or follow your projects online?
So we are in the social media player, all the social media. So in Facebook, my name is there, the Grace Banu. You can follow that, and the Instagram also Grace Banu is there, and Twitter it's at the rate of Tirunangai. That's my account, and you should follow. And you can also follow at Trans Now and Trans Rights Now Collective. It's our movement. So you can follow any of all the accounts.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Grace. To everyone listening, you know what to do. You know where to follow Grace. You'll also find all of the relevant links in the podcast description. And before we go, just a small reminder. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and rate Women and Work, Why It Matters on your favorite streaming platforms. The Women and Work, Why It Matters podcast series is part of the Rebuild COVID-19 and Women in the Informal Economy project. The study is being carried out in Kenya, Uganda, and India by the International Center for Research on Women, with support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the International Development Research Center. This podcast is brought to you by the International Center for Research on Women and Feminism in India. You can find more about ICRW's work on their website, www.icrw.org/Asia, and find them on Twitter and Facebook at ICRW Asia. You can also find more about FII on www.feminisminindia.com or follow FII on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Feminism in India. Bye-bye, and we'll see you again in the next episode.